It's a living soul, the forest, the land, the sea, and the people. We all come from the same life source, from the same spiritual well-being where we grow from. Tiriwa, tuputupu whenua, came from the earth. The same with the seedlings of either Tangamahuta, Matuanahere, all the big kauri. That's where we were born from the earth. If the earth wasn't there, there'd be nothing. Hear that? That's a pigeon. The people of yesterday, it was a staple diet.
I te tuatahi me karakia tātou ki Wao Nui te Wao tāne. Nō reira. E o nui, e o roa, e o takitaki, e o wānanga, anei mātou e ahu ana i tēnei taku ki tō arau tapu. Kia ara hine e kui a mātou e whai ana i ngā kāka ki ngā hua. O iui o nuku o iui o rangi no nehera, kia au atu ki te mata puna o te ora nau e o e. Kia whai mātou ranga, he aro mātua, he aro tāwhito, he aro tīpua, kia koe e o e. Tūturu whakamaua kia tina, haumi e, hui e, tai ki e. Tira mai, tira mai. Anei ngā karamu. These are the karamu berries. And they're really good. You can actually eat these and you can rub them into your aching joints. If you've got sore aching joints, you can rub them in and it helps to relieve the pain if it's really sore. My main interest is the rongoa, the medicinal purposes of the trees. That's what I've grown up with and what I use with my tamariki. But in saying that, we have the kaitiaki role of protecting and looking after all of the forest species, not just the plants we use. They are a whānau like us and we need the taller trees looking after the smaller trees. And these ones here are baby myrtle trees. These ones here that are growing up. And these are tiny little baby one right here. Our tūpuna had an in-depth knowledge of the ngāhere and the way it operated, and it's unfortunate that some of that's been lost. They observed how the birds interacted with the trees and they were able to work out the connections and how everything works together and needs each other to survive.
The beach has always been a food source. The forest, same thing. It's always been a food source. When I was young, there were mills all around. It did provide work for the locals.
Daniel witnessed the tail end of a kauri timber industry that started in the early 1800s and continued until the mid-20th century when the resource was depleted. Much of the beautiful straight-grain timber, ideal for shipbuilding and houses, was exported overseas. Nowadays, kauri wood is a treasure, still used for whakairo or carving.
It really is a good timber. It's quite resinous, so it's better to use hand tools rather than power tools. And I think people value it because it is it's iconic, you know. I've always been interested in waka ever since I was a young boy, and my dad used to tell me stories about how Māori came to be in Aotearoa. This one's a wakataua, or based on the wakataua, which is a traditional Māori monohull war canoe. It's made from kauri and kānuka. Because I live on the edge of the forest, I'll often get my wood from the river after a big flood. Quite often we have some nice bits of kauri, so I'll just go for a paddle down the river and pick up bits of wood. So this one's come out of the river. There aren't many trees left, which is why I make a point of, you know, never cutting any trees down, but using reclaimed or recycled timber.
hear that there's very few forests left in Germany and in whole Europe, so very impressive to come here.
They're such amazing trees, they take so long to grow. It's amazing that this one, 2,000 years old, is still there.
That's a boom boom tree. Pretty boom boom tree.
Kauri are the biggest rainforest trees in the world. An ancient species, they are slower growing than the flowering plants such as puriri that tend to outgrow them on the fertile lowlands, but can't compete on the bright and windy ridges. Kauri leaf litter is acidic and slow to decompose, accumulating around the base of trees to protect their shallow roots and keep other trees at bay. Kauri are known as a keystone species by biologists, which means they support a special type of ecosystem, both above ground and in the soil. People are increasingly part of this ecosystem, especially near big cities. Kauri forests provide a peaceful retreat from the daily grind. In Auckland's Waitakere ranges, the Great Forest of Tiriwa, parks workers and volunteers help protect the forest by keeping pest numbers down. While Glenn and team work on controlling the numbers of wild pigs in the area, conservation volunteers like Stuart concentrate on the smaller species. Cascades Kauri Park is a popular destination for tourists and a base for the Ark in the Park project, which is reintroducing endangered birds back into the ngahere.
I get involved with Kauri looking for nests in them. They're homes for many birds. But, they're very much part of this forest. It would be very sad if we didn't have them.
You know, I've been working here for so many years. Those trees, I'm still awed by them. This tree here is probably, as I said, approximately 1,000 years old, but there are other trees in this area here that are almost 2,000 years old. There's a special whakatauki or proverb which goes, "Rākau rangatira, tū teitei te wau, ki te kore koutou, mawai mihi te rā," which means chiefly trees standing tall in the forest. Without you, who would greet the sun? And these trees are just, they're just a special tree.
Unfortunately, the Waitakere Ranges is one of the places where a new disease affecting our kauri has been identified. First noticed on Piha's Maungaroa Ridge, many other areas including Huia and Titirangi were found to be affected. A national survey is put underway to find out which forests are affected, recording signs of dieback and sampling infected soil and trees where necessary. One of the first signs of disease is bleeding around the base of the trees or collar. Kauri dieback is caused by a type of Phytophthora. Similar to fungi, these are well-known diseases of agricultural crops. It was a Phytophthora that caused the Irish potato famine of 1845. They can also be devastating to forests, affecting trees such as oaks. Kauri dieback was first observed on Aotea, Great Barrier Island in 1972. In 2006, Dr. Ross Beaver from Landcare Research found the same Phytophthora associated with the sick trees in the Waitakeres. Related to an Asian species, Phytophthora katsurae, it was given the interim name of Phytophthora taxon agathis.
Some recent evidence that's come before us suggests that the disease is present in a 1955 kauri plantation. There's two ways to look at that. Either it's been recently introduced or it was introduced at the time of the establishment of the plantation. So we're dealing with an exotic organism in our natural systems. And there's also the possibility that post-war there was movements of machinery back from the Pacific conflicts, whether or not some of these machines were used in forestry or forest practices. That's something that, again, needs to be reconstructed by going back and looking at some of the early records.
In the lab, Stan and colleagues like Nick Waipoua from Auckland Council see what they can grow from samples collected in the forest. The organism that causes Kauri dieback has two main spore types. Some, like microscopic seeds, can survive in the mud on your boot for years. Others are able to swim through water.
We know the approximate size and shape of the structures that we're interested in. These are the characteristic sexual structures of PTA.
In the forest, anything that disturbs kauri roots weakens the tree and can bring in the disease. Under certain conditions, especially when it's wet, swimming spores are produced.
So, what we've got here is a 500-year or so old kauri tree, very big as you can see, a really big tree. And what the disease has done is it's come up the root system, come to the trunk, and come inside the trunk just below this. And what the tree does is produce lots and lots of gum. So it's bleeding, and that's what kauri do when they're under attack. And you can see that here, moving up the tree, that one of the signs that a tree is sick with kauri dieback is this bleeding of the gums. Eventually, these bleeds stop the food supply, and the leaves and the branches are starved of nutrients and food, and the canopy dies back.
While biosecurity professionals like Nick work with tāngata whenua on managing and understanding the disease, the public are asked to clean their boots and gear and stay on track to avoid tramping it into the bush. Boardwalks have the added benefit of protecting fragile roots. It's equally important to clean boots and gear after visiting the forest as well as before, in case one has accidentally picked up some spores.
Here we go. Everybody do their boots.
Those that really need to go off track for their work, like the Ark in the Park volunteers, need to take special care.
Get some idea of what you're actually doing.
Stuart organises stoat trapping for the Ark in the Park.
We take these little kits with us. They include a scrubbing brush for any loose dirt removal and a spray bottle with trigene in it. This is a dilute disinfectant solution which will kill Kauri dieback spores. And we have a handy plastic bag to bundle it all up in and keep our pack dry. We have a system in place where we clean our boots on arrival. We use this kit when we leave the track, if we cross any Kauri root zones, and when we exit back onto the track. For myself personally, I also have a separate pair of boots which I keep for use in the Ark.
Changing into clean boots and chucking gear in a bag means that any specks of mud that might have escaped the cleaning process can't get transferred elsewhere, like inside the car, and allows for more thorough cleaning at home, away from kauri areas.
Right, what we use as contractors is trigene. Now, if you haven't got any of this stuff, even just the plain old water, anything to get the mud off your boots. And also I always bring an extra pair of boots. So as soon as I leave here, I clean these, take them off and put them into this rubbish bag with all my gear that I've been hunting in. Up. Shay, get up. Panga, get up. Oh, that's us, Dwayne. Time for a cup of tea.
Back up north, Duncan and Jean are lucky enough to be caretakers of a beautiful kauri block that's part of their farm. They have fenced out stock and turned it into a reserve where they are monitoring kiwi for the Department of Conservation.
The reason we did this was we felt that we needed to try and protect the heritage that we all come from. The native trees areas seem to be becoming less in New Zealand. There are different types of viruses that are going through, so we wanted to protect this area because we felt it was special. These areas that are up above us here in the sides of the banks are where they're likely to be nesting and probing. You can tell in a situation like this something has been in there in recent times because you've got no spider webs covering it, so I would imagine that would be the likelihood. And given the smell that is in the area, with the ammonia smell, I would say kiwi are not too far away from here. Well, I think anybody that's coming into the area from out of areas that might be infected, we have to make sure that boots are clean and that we don't encourage dogs in an area like this unless they're kiwi sensitised, but if it's a pig hunter, that all gear is clean and they're not going to transfer it from tree to tree or area to area, more importantly.
As more locations are found with dieback symptoms, some forests may need to be closed to protect them. Unfortunately, in 2010, the disease is positively identified in the Waipoua forest.
We move down and have a look. Can you see the bottom of that one?
That one's got that yellow stuff.
Doesn't look very nice, does it? Oh, I think it's quite sad that it has come in, that it is actually spreading in our forests, and our ever so strong trees are now being targeted by this fungus. So what we're trying to promote here is that the environmental education becomes part of their everyday life practices. And this year it will be about the trees. Developing those attitudes at a young age, because I think a lot of us didn't grow up with that kind of thinking. They'll learn the importance of the trees and how they help us in our lives, and learning the safe ways to stop the spread of the disease. The kauri do need to be protected, and there are other places in the Ngāhere where you can, get up close with the trees and do what you need to do. So
it's about looking after a taonga, a gift, a precious gift that's been given to us for a long time now to be treasured. And just the people coming in tells you how important that treasure is. If that treasure is that important, then it's our duty, whether it's to close down the forest or what, it has to be done. It's about, we've still got kauri. We still look after them. They're part of us. Please stay on the tracks in our forests.
It takes 5 minutes of the day just to clean and scrub your boots, but it could save the heritage of our beautiful New Zealand kauri trees. So make sure you do it.